It's a job that will be replaced by artificial intelligence. And I was thinking, what if this happened to me? If humans can be completely replaced, what does this mean? The curiosity about these questions was the beginning of Stellar Blade.
Let's take it nice and slow, okay?
So, y'all ever play Honey Pop before? It's a really good game. No, seriously, dude. Like I mean for real. Like, actually, just one of the best match 3 puzzle games out there. Celebrating its 10th anniversary. That's pretty sweet. It's still a hallmark of its genre. It's a puzzle genre. Despite the Markiplier memes.
I don't even remember if I went on a date with Lola in the last episode.
It's a very popular game. People love it. Chicks love it. They love the game, man. Did you know the voice actress of 2B voices Lola? That's pretty sick. Okay. It's easy to poke fun at the rationale of the sex game. Let's Play Infamy to the OMG, I can't believe I'm playing this facade. Yep, it's an adult game. And it really does got good gameplay, addicting progression mechanics, and extreme tongue-in-cheek humor.
Okay. I love me some chocolate.
What? I know the goal of the game was to bring quality to a genre inundated with smut and potentially even slop. But does Honey Pop rise above smut? Do you need to rise above a sort of boundary of quality to justify the existence of a game, even though it's a porn game? Unless art does something ironic or elevated artsy with its sex, it seems impossible for the debauchery of being horny to be acceptable at face value or not to be a comical endpoint. I understand horny is horny, head empty, brain dead stuff, but it's a fundamental component to Honey Pop. And wow, yeah, what a good game. Nobody would be talking about the albeit well-made match 3 puzzle game if the sex didn't sell it. Sex is the goal of the game. It's noticeable and people are horny or just curious. So yeah, the sex is just a part of it. I know the ladies be moaning we be collecting their panties to unlock the final boss and be a slut and sleep with every woman in town, but hey, come on, man. Good game. All these elements together. There's a reason it's iconic with the interactivity, the characters, the settings, the music. Oh, the soundtrack is wonderful. It's genuinely cozy to have a game where you're just enjoying the vibes of town with its water park, bar and lounge, farmer's market, and more. The only goal is to chat up babes and get laid. This chill out attitude is a huge component to many dating sims, and yeah, stuff can be fanfic or smutty too, but like an adult game having fun with sex doesn't seem like such a bad thing when examined like this. Stellar Blade's reputation precedes it, a mobile studio's first advance into AAA space that is distinctively derivative of its inspirations, and also horny. Or no, not so horny. It just has a lot of skin and curves, but we'll get into that later. Amongst the Grums, Gemmaguning Gasarog Furor, Stellar Babe was just another drop in the puddle of horny dude gamer evangelism pre-release. 18 months after its launch, one corroded in that single-sided culture war rot, gaming has been left with an action-packed femme fatale to reflect on game design legacies, sex in video games, and mass censorship, literally across the globe. It feels impossible, or almost timidly irresponsible, to talk about Stellar Baddie without bringing up the obvious comparisons. Post-apocalypse sci-fi retread Nier Automata, RPG-flavored Sekiro parry femme fatale, action heroine Bayonetta, vocal dynamic symphonic Nier Automata, music bopping fine Nier ass Automata booty ass booty sword perfect dodge ass parry. Let's just actually talk about the game. With the Unreal Engine 4 in mind, SB's got all the recognizable environmental beauty, global illumination, and poop mountains. things I've come to love with this engine. It has all the finesse and assets and texture utilization to sing prestige, while having little video game stuff where the textures start to smell. Simultaneously, Eve has an animation budget fatter than her ass. I'm not one to mull over game engines nowadays. What may be perceived as age in UE4 is showcasing true beautiful maturity. It feels like home for games that are trying to prove themselves, such as this one. Stellar Baby gushes at the start with wet angels and biblical apocalypse. The beautiful fighters violently dismembered and bloody action smearing all over their polycarbonate bodies. The action is brutal, the finishing moves are desperate, and the choreography is sick as fuck. It's a bold and serviceable introduction to the game. Storming the beaches of Normandy in a liturgical sort of way, I was confused by the storytelling and intrigued how the abundantly clear motifs would all come together. They didn't. This is a sci-fi action RPG after all. I already knew clear as day the angels were the bad guys. Somehow. Speaking of the bad guys, the Naytiba's hyper-aggressive body horror designs are in fact sick as fuck. It feels try-hard and selling the dramatic embrace of blood and organic life, but just add some visceral flesh-tearing blades to their maws. I accept this posture. There's also robot Naytibas, which are undoubtedly the weaker design in my eyes. Give me more of the Naytibas being wild superorganisms with all manner of goopy grotesqueness. Despite that sole fundamental fluctuation, I think their designs are very consistent. This is also what I can say for the environment design, but in a more derogatory way. Eidos 7 is a vast and strange introductory level. Lush rain, blended languages, the Gothic accents, and Greek statues. I'm not sure if it's just a messy amalgam of a bunch of historical art and city architecture, or intentional with lore. According to the story, Eidos 7 is the first city entirely created by Mother Sphere, essentially AI god. Seemingly a blend of human culture and historical data culminated into a haphazard city like this. Even the great digital deity is stuck in the derivative shadow of what it's been fed by humanity. It's unfortunate that with the elementary way Stellar Blade expresses its ideas, it's hard to tell if potentially interesting aspects like this are intentional or not, which evidently means that they are messy. I like the style, and the music absolutely rages. It highlights and emboldens literally every second of your time with Stellar Boob, but confounding art direction choices persist throughout as well. This rainy abandoned city is a wonderfully atmospheric start, and after a climactic and gloom introduction, it feels so fresh to mull in the melancholy rain while pop star vocals express some angst. The time through Eidos 7 doesn't falter with its variety as it takes you out of the overgrown parking garages, through transit lines to flooded commercial sectors, clock tower set pieces, and down in the dank depths of its sewers. All of the accompaniment to each location being wholly original and full of life and variety. But what if, as you travel deeper into the game, beyond its one sewer, there was a second sewer? What if there was not one research laboratory, but two research laboratory? Some segments of Stella Pizza go beyond the linear action platforming levels and provide a large open space to explore. There is the wasteland, and then not only that one desert, but two desert. I understand that the state of Earth is one racked by climate change and mass extinction level war. However, knowing the true nature of the Naytibas, the sworn enemies of Mother Sphere and angels alike, and these hyper-aggressive organic forces, you think they would saturate the planet into one bursting with organic features, with life, maybe even alien-like in identity. I would have loved to have seen a full-ass jungle rather than a second desert with a small fishing oasis. I think the ruined city of this locale would have been very interesting to navigate and discover within a lush ecosystem, especially since those shitty-ass quicksand pits would have totally still fit. And yes, some more spacey and alien-like inspiration as to what is pointed at in the final act of the game. Thankfully, this repetitious pattern is put to rest for the final hours, which are a non-stop spectacle of inspired visuals and ideas unique against the rest of the runtime as well as its inspirations. A massive, snowy space complex with an utterly magnificent orbit elevator on the horizon, a Tower of Babel to space. The swelling strings impose such a presence as the high-tech soundscapes trickle in the background and the tube bells, whole notes vividly chime out. It's giving that orchestral yet highly sophisticated, wealthy future undercurrent vibe. The same kind of vibes that made me adore tracks like All Quiet at the Gates in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Or even The Cradle Will Fall in Final Fantasy XIII. I'm a super fan of Masashi Hamauzu. I have to mention the dynamic alteration of this song when you go from exploring to fighting. The way the percussion fills out the larger breaks in the melody alongside the bass, it's a genius musical power play. We all love dynamic music in video games, and the two halves in all of SB's tracks are so fucking good. Popping, bumping, strumming, and fluttering with vocals and beats and dynamics. The battle versions all provide emphatic percussion that boldly drive its OST, or sometimes even change the groove entirely. Getting past the ominous mountain face sneaking through the outer perimeter and into the logistics line with its shredding guitar and transformative tempo. The original track in halftime, or the detected version in double time, I was surprised to hear how balls to the wall it gets. God, you feel that? Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Oh, they're spanking.
I'm sorry, I'm dragging this, but you need to hear this guitar too. Oh, God, that's so good. The compositions all have transformative and wild capabilities that wave from orchestral, hi-fi, pretty girl symphotechnica, or just straight up dubstep. On board this long-awaited spacecraft, you're greeted with VIP shuttles, prestige lounges with sakura blossoms, purples and golds as a gilded final level to the big final boss rush of the game. You're allowed to take your time and all the vibes and hype with the Japanese aesthetics taking on an authoritative 4 on the floor when things get serious. God, that Dawn drum accent on the 4 and the 1 makes me throw my neck out of place. I love the intensity of the Prestige Lounge's boss, Karakuri, and then the spectacle of the Demogorgon following immediately after. I'm bewildered that the visual was spoiled for the PR of the game. Truly, it's a special moment, considering even the cover art for the game takes inspiration from this sequence. I hadn't played Nier Automata or Bayonetta in the time of playing Celestial Sword, which was an interesting angle of approach. Now, the inspirations are clear in every regard. The bad bitch character action, the sci-fi android activities, the religious iconography, and the visual ideas on screen. It was jarring throughout my time of reference expansion to find something I really liked during my first playthrough of Stellar Blade often exists in these previous games. I'm not calling it plagiarism, that's a brutal and inaccurate claim, but it's abundantly clear just how far the inspirations go. I think everyone wants more of what the final act of the game is cooking in a sequel. Deep space, the salvaged, diverse aesthetics of old human civilization. I saw different inspirations prior to getting to know Nier and Bayonetta, however, such as the earth-torn, hollow vibes of Pulse from Final Fantasy XIII. With UE4, I see a lot of the Final Fantasy VII Remake with its approach to character and environment environment models as well. Gorgeous vocals and beautiful orchestration with the exploration themes really kept bringing the Masashi Hamauzu fanatic out of me, and I feel bad comparing even more, but in this case, the comparison to Hamauzu is a glowing recommendation and compliment from me. That man is a god of video game soundtracks. Greek sculptures, sprinkles of gothic drama visuals, and brutal enemy designs were honestly giving Chaos Legion. I love all of these games, so I vibed. Eve shoulders the most unique aspects of the game's presentation. Aside from the features that literally stick out, everything about Eve stands tall amongst all other characters, enemies, and the environment. Celestial Toledo is very yellow and red with blistering sunlight and oppressing darkness. Eve is sleek with eggshell whites and grays to elegantly contrast the rough environments. Her reflective green is the ultimate accent to this whole design. Green is unanimous with life and nature, a visual motif to her role in healing the world from crisis. The wording on her right leg assorts her like slick packaging for a new product, not in a sexual objectification, but a true classifying one as her literal role as a produced android by Mothersphere. Eve, Protocol 7th Descending Force, Assault Squad number 000137. Retrieve all the version 00060700Z435S XXX, devastating like lightning. Her suit is even printed with a barcode. Damn, girl, do those thighs come in a package deal? Because I'm gonna need an AirTrack S2B2 barcode scanner to check those things out. I love the flourishes in her design. The short fingerless gloves, the belts that wrap from her chest, across her lower shoulder and along her waist, the lace that rests on the clavicle paired with a tie to provide an unconventional combination of sophistication that I think really works. She has the longest hair of anyone. You can cheekily remove the ponytail to customize her in case you want a better view, and also it just fits some of her hairstyles better. I'm not keeping the ponytail on a bob. You fucking crazy? But the hair is important, as her oversized high-tech hair clip also serves the secondary function as her sword. This detail is sick as fuck. Her default design is very inspired and original, but Eve is also the most customizable character action heroine I might have seen. Collecting nanosuits, hairstyles, and accessories is a hallmark feature of the game. Get her professional, casual, flirty, skimpy, you name it. Dress up is a genuinely fun part of the game beyond the nosebleed looks. I loved picking out cut and color, accessories, and fits to all go together to find the ultimate look. I think my favorite might be the Kill Bill inspired tracksuit with the pixie cut. It's an addicting part of the gameplay to easily provide variety, character expression, and engagement beyond the hacking and the slashing. And hacking and slashing will you do? Stellar Blade is that AAA action RPG adventure combo we've been seeing in the industry for a while. My goopy rat brain will keep coming to this schlocky gameplay so long as you got hit stop. If your gameplay has the chunky Campbell's soup panko crumb crunch hit stop and all that slow motion response stuff going on, I'm probably going to dum brain on those kinetics. That game feel just can't not tickle my thalamus. I'm gonna stop talking like this. Combat is difficult, especially in the beginning portion of the game as you're getting used to enemy attack patterns to maximize reward, as well as trial and erroring your way through hordes of crustaceous, glippy, gorging, Bible muscle daddy having ass freak shows. I died a lot. I wouldn't say SB's combat is stiff by any means, but it is far more locked in and tight than I expected it to be. A blend of character action and action RPG that weighs heavy on your execution. You aren't moving around the battlefield much. You're Sekiro style locking into perfect block or dodge. Sorry for the comparisons again, while also having your DMC Bayonetta combo routes and Devil Twiggle in your Devil Twiggle modes. The progression of combat abilities escalates in many potentially overpowered ways, and that feels vindicative. Beta and burst skills sauce up your simple combat abilities and provide situational advantages. Some skills deplete enemy shields faster, some affect a wider area to suppress large enemy numbers, and some just kill better than others. You can focus builds on specific skills, and there's decent variety thanks to exospine buffs and parameter changes. There's some less inspired, increase the jiggle rate of your cheeks by 1.25% augmentations, which might be a sought after operation in real life, but in the game it can be rather uneventful. I created a build that allowed me to accumulate burst meter so fast and consistently I could essentially hit stun a boss through an entire phase and not worry about the capital D difficulty. I looked for these cheeky builds or solutions because although the game can be rough with you, Eve can be rough back. Devastating like lightning is quite the apt product packaging because god damn Eve hits. Gunnerblade goes out of its way to make Eve that package of cunty badass, just like her mother. If her story and writing won't do the job, we'll get into that, her aforementioned design and capabilities through gameplay pull the weight the best they can. Her long ponytail is iconic, and her floating digital hair clip being her sick-ass sword in Standby, that's exquisite. So much so I've mentioned it twice. Between encounters, you can customize, purchase goods, and spend skill points at these break areas. The charming cottage, cozy vocals laid down by Mother Vibes swoon with flirty bossa nova beats you'd hear in a bougie lobby. I imagine this is the music Eve likes to listen to. Besides the parry mechanic sharing lots of Sekiro, these rest stops are the only comparison I could give to Solar Queen and Dark Souls, which is also a frequent comparison from gamers. But, you know, John Dark Soul could never warm up their bonfire with these sophisticated vibes. Finding shelter from the rain in Eidos 7, popping a coin into the rest zone and taking a cozy seat while a gentle vocalist sang on the radio, this is without a doubt one of my favorite aspects Galactic Goddess offers. I could sit here and admire the look I was serving in these sheltered spaces for hours. Pretty sure I did given the game's runtime, but alas, you'll have to leave your seat eventually and go serve some Natibas for being grimy, nasty freaks. Combat juggles between health, shield, and balance gauges, and really tempts you with chipping away at the latter because they allow Eve to perform buttery retribution moves that are always flashy and hardcore, accentuating Eve as that feminine powerhouse. I really wish these moves did more damage to bosses because they are truly hard fought, requiring much of your burst energy or masterful execution in order to chip the balance meter to zero. It's a bit disappointing to see a baddie's inner skull carved out with a lightning infused blade only for 1/20th of their health to go down. But I won't complain too hard because the core gameplay is such a treat to play. It was the foundational aspect development focused on to make sure it was airtight and a total hook for players. Bosses highlight this to its zenith. They are challenging, consistent, and often just as flashy as Eve. I suppose a difficult boss fight gives another avenue of comparison to Dark Souls, but also that gets into the territory of just like what action-based video games are traditionally supposed to do. A lock-on system is indicative of Souls-like inspiration. That's just a fundamental pillar in how to handle action gameplay in a three-dimensional space, my dude. I think this is twice in a row now I've kind of egged on Dark Souls fans. Sorry for throwing so much shade. I like the Souls series. I'll check myself. Sorry about that. Although it follows the trend that the smaller enemy with a sword boss fight is way scarier than the giant monstrosity, and it's really cool that Melina got her toes out, moments like the Raven boss fight leave their whole own impression.
This is my battle. I can't believe it.
Are you kidding me? This is so fun. Oh my God, I love this. Superior Hottie attempts to spice up the abundantly amazing swordplay with a gun. This gun doesn't perform very well except for specific enemies that get staggered or unprotected. Their dominant use is during SB's 2 research lab sequences. Although these two are quite visually similar, I actually really enjoyed their focus on gunplay and platforming. I've seen them compared to a sort of Resident Evil clone sequence, which I understand where the mind is at, but I certainly didn't interpret them that way. The story reason for Eve being technologically restricted from her sword doesn't make much sense to me, but this is a good old case of the video game demanding some variety in any way that it can. The gunplay is simple, responsive, and the restriction doesn't overstay its welcome. Obviously, these features can be improved. Gun utility, navigation, puzzles, and the ranged combat could go deeper into true third-person cover shooter flavors. Full Gears or Uncharted on the these segments. I mean, why not? We already have Eve Nathan draking her way through building collapses and freaking falling trains. I want to see bolder and more fleshed out platforming as well. More maneuvers, spacing, puzzly navigation, and wild movement. It was surprising how much of that was already included in the first place, and it felt novel to have sequences like these, or the sliding tunnel moments that are practically retro gaming events at this point. It was reliable enough, and I feel the sequel can get really fun with it. This girl needs to be running on walls and doing sick tricks and way more in puzzle solving and combat stuff. I want to be jumping on heads and off of ceilings for a stellar final strike. Aside from the lacking visual variety I mentioned in its levels, SB is paced very well along its sequences. Eidos 7 is a multi-hour ordeal. As you get used to the game, you'll become intimately familiar with its twists and turns, the shortcuts and runbacks. It feels intricate and tight. Matrix 11 is a meaty mid-game level that has like 3 sewers alone, but it also has a train graveyard and a train station. And yeah, okay, and some cool hidden human shelter stuff going on in a sewer.
Another sewer.
It's an in-depth and arduous ride all the way to the tacky boss fight. I was impressed how long and intense the entire section was. Eidos 9 is a secret level. It's short and sweet. It's a fascinating set piece with its flooded amusement park and gives Lily some good extra development time. I'm glad she's actually important to the story, even if I don't find the characters or story actually, good. Between Matrix 11 and the Orca Space Complex, or Eidos 9 if you unlock the bonus section, are the previously mentioned large zones. These are a great break from the high-octane action to take on side quests, find tons of collectibles and costumes, and enjoy the bonus challenges. The desert regions are sorely lacking traversal options, however. Your fastest way of getting around is hoping to find any of the somewhat sparse fast travel modules, otherwise you will have to leg it wherever you intend to go. It can get tedious with the size of the maps and how much the side quests have you running around. There's any number of cool solutions, I'm sure. Samus is getting her bike, maybe you should give it to Eve too. Forcing you to take time in the environment can have you naturally stumble across some points of interest, and I do appreciate that when a side quest is complete, you can fast travel immediately to Zion to fulfill the quest. I was weary of it all come the second desert. Genuinely baffled that both major regions are just deserts. Twice. You do the desert thing twice. Okay, woof. I'm sorry. I've bitched enough. Let's bitch about the story. What I can say about SB's story is that it is neither surprising nor gripping. It is predictable, serviceable, but played out by characters of a two-dimensional nature. Christo signifiers aplenty and angelic heroines descending down to an apocalyptic earth to cleanse the land of Natibas, or natives as the first trailer called them. We knew how the story was going to play out upon its first reveal. The obvious thematic visuals, nomenclature, and vibes presented in Hour 1 do not evolve or dive deeper by the 20th. Eve loses her closest ally and friend, Taki, during the initial battle, is saved by a stranger, Adam, and the adventure begins shortly after that. Eve journeys through Eidos 7 to acquire something at the request of Adam. I can't remember off the top of my head. I literally could not be bothered to check my gameplay real quick to tell you what. Eventually discovering Lily at the end of her mission. These three are the dynamic trio, but build little rapport
There's
or
no reason to
dynamics.
say no. However, I want to decide after hearing the story from that person you're calling Orcal.
That shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, I can definitely get behind that idea.
Well, I guess that settles that. All right then, let's head to Zion.
It is directly after this first mission, where Eve has known Adam for about 24 hours and literally just met Lily, that we get a...
Where do we go?
No time for breaks. Typical Eve.
I don't think so, buddy. That's where I really knew that the character and story dynamics were going to try to express certain developments in their relationships or the plot, but it was going to miss the mark often, or ever actually earn the depth of what it's trying to express. I was right. The events follow them as they collect the cores of powerful Naytibas to help save the final human civilization of Zion. Through the course of their journey, they explore the fragments of civilization and ancient research facilities hiding the truth of humanity. Eve will be challenged by encountering her once thought dead friend, and the party will discover logs from an angel of a previous dive mission, Raven, slowly detailing the truth of the world. These are cliche, holographic exposition moments that start to trickle down the not-so-shocking revelation of the AI god's nefarious nature, that the purpose of angels isn't as clear-cut as expressed in Eve's mission, and humanity's downfall and the nature of Naytibas are direct consequences of a war between mankind and AI. Turns out the Cybertronic people aren't really people, they are androidos, a species of androids ushered by Mother Sphere. I think they're technically made by the final human, first Naytiba first, but whatever. We thought we were fighting for humanity here on Earth. Are these humans? My God, why don't these people have faces? What is happening with these designs? Turns out we were fighting to purge the last semblances of ancient humanity. The Naytiba, genetically altered humans that pursued organic super evolution as the solution to survive the android onslaught. True humanity was nearly wiped out by Mother Sphere's perfect replacement, so mankind adopted a grotesque, hyper-biological form to ensure survival, their sheer might pushing androidos off the planet and into the stars. If you're familiar with any sci-fi story, you were already prepared that our starting faction were the baddies, that the Naytibas were the originals of Earth in some sort of way, but plot doesn't need to be the most original or never before imagined scenario. It's all about how it's told. This is the biggest blemish on Starry EP's flawlessly pro-vitamin B5 moisturized skin. It's tough to sympathize with a cast that look and talk like the androids they actually literally are.
Yeah, that's what I'd be doing if it wasn't for my partner screwing up. He entered the forbidden area, trying to find a jackpot for the sake of Zion and the store, or so he says. That place is the Devil's Lair. That's why there's lost treasure in it.
Devil's Lair?
Yes, the Devil's Lair.
Well, except Adam. I'm convinced Adam is not made of meat, but cardboard. It's impossible to be shaken by obvious realizations you caught onto the first 30 minutes. The stiff writing, messy flow of events, and failure to elaborate on any depth of themes leaves every character lacking. Lily is the sweet, cutesy hacker nerd, struggling against her inability to reconcile the truth of events against her indoctrination regarding Mother Sphere. I appreciate her being a character that struggles with the truth against her worldview, and she also has fascinating potential backstory revealed in the secret Eidos 9 mission. An old hideout insinuates perhaps a partner of hers. Clearly, there are many conflicts and events that could have been elaborated on to make Lily a more interesting character. She can be a broken record, and her inhibitions fail to really develop, fluctuate, or challenge other characters like Eve. I really do like her and Eve as a duo at the end of the game, and want to see them foster a true friendship in the sequel. Adam never reacts or responds like the rest of them, always just spouting sympathetic and coy observations.
But the truth doesn't need to be kind, only true. The grace of Mother Sphere is a fiction. At least for the humans left here. Maybe you too will come to feel this way.
What?
He anchors as the one to elaborate Eve on objectives and point out when a key should be retrieved to unlock a door.
Yes, what we're doing is really worth it.
I suppose his sometimes apprehensive attitude and objective focus is an attempt to hint at his hidden agenda, a pivotal precursor to all of the game's events, but it actually just reads as him being a weirdo considering how strange so many of the cast act.
Wow, good work. You're gonna put me out of a job.
Huh?
There are also moments of diet levity to try and lighten him up. I can't say these are very successful, even if they're sometimes cute.
Eve, whatever you do, don't look down. Aw, come on.
Huh?
The NPCs are strange and forgettable entities. And titties, their interactions with Eve are confusing. You want to mash through their peculiar dialogue to get on with whatever side quests they
Aren't you
offer.
curious why I don't want to work? You can ask.
And why do I need to know?
You're right. I guess it's not that interesting.
Their designs barely convey the humanity they're supposed to represent, leaving Zion to feel inhospitable and barely worth saving. Our main cast are the only ones remotely close to feeling and looking like the humanity they're supposed to represent. All others feel like synthetics already missing the ways of mankind's culture. Don't let the dimensions fool you. Eve is a flat character. I'm sorry. Lily and her together is a close contender, but this protagonist totally fails in making the story a hook. Eve is constantly challenged, and yet we don't see these things truly develop her convictions. She loses Taki at the beginning, which is a relationship we never come to understand. No elaboration on the depths of their feelings for one another, what life was like together in space, and what losing Taki means for Eve. By the time Eve has to confront Taki at around the halfway point of the game, the conclusion of the battle completely fails to provide any gravitas to their ending. There's no clarity or expression to how this changes Eve going forward besides unlocking the Taki mode, her feeling maybe a bit bad about it, but also apparently overjoyed to be able to carry her legacy. The revelations of her purpose as an angel is shaken by the truth of humanity. With her mission no longer clear-cut, how will she reconcile? What decisions will Eve make? She gets somewhat confused, tells her friends and the players that she's frustrated, and tries her best to be patient with developing details until she has a bigger picture as to what's going on. She is described as deeply selfless and wanting to help, and her actions do support that, but her characterization falters to express that as an aspect of her rather than, a dynamic of the gameplay. There's not really a storytelling through environment or mechanics. It all culminates in a character that expresses feelings and development through literal word rather than genuine demonstration and evolution. There isn't an aha where you notice Eve has changed through her journey. She'll just say, I have no fucking clue if we can trust Mother Sphere. I'ma just keep rocking my cute sweater. Fair enough. She loses her only friend, is completely alien to the culture of humanity on Earth, and has to reconcile the foundation of her entire manufactured purpose, but nothing folds her. Always a napkin, never origami.
Huh?
In some ways, this characterization harkens to many other stoic, objective-based video game characters, a familiar brand of protag. I don't care about Sam Vanquish being the flat-ass whoever he thinks he is Grundle guy. I know why I'm in Vanquish and love the tropiness of his big dude energy. So similarly, there's fun to be had in Eve being a no-nonsense badass. Her confidence in her ability and her goals is awesome, but it just isn't enough for a narrative-driven game like this. I wanted to see so much more of Eve. Shocker, I know. Another zinger. Another first-hand Zen zinger. Another first-hand Zen zinger. Another first-hand Zen zinger. Another first-hand... SB does little in saying anything about that original concept regarding humanity being replaced. I suppose the Androidos, the perfect fabrications of mankind, are the major players in trying to examine this theme. Yet the scenario of the AI empire with its religious parallels and organic monstrosities, which are never recharacterized after their connection to humanity is revealed, answer no questions on the thesis or really ask anything in the first place. Even the humanity we are fighting for on Earth, those in Zion, everything but Adam and the Naytiba are Androidos. It's nothing but synthetic sinews. Instead of asking, can humanity be replaced? It seems like it should be exploring, what does it mean to be human after our species is fundamentally changed or even replicated in the first place? Nier Automata, the game most closely reflecting Stellar's thematic goals and its characters and setting and plot and pretty much all that stuff about it, clearly outlined the role of humanity in its world. The abundant synthetic life was still, in fact, life, and its story centers different schools of thought to investigate and scrutinize what the meaning of life is. So if SB needs obvious adjustments, what could it say differently over its sci-fi peers? Or if it has a similar statement on the value of the human experience, how could it demonstrate it with unique vitality? The AAA story-driven action adventure with RPG elements should have sex. Why would I come to this idea? We understand the goal of the game was to be a AAA action game, not to be an interactive literature statement on humanity and sex. Even if it did have a better written story, the original idea was on AI and the hypothetical replacement of humanity. My subject matter of sex doesn't even come close to that plot idea. There's little value in talking about what Stellar Blade as a work of art isn't. Only analyze what it is and tried to be. You may fail to see any value in talking about what this game isn't, or how it failed to be what it isn't trying to be. How would sex even matter to Stellar Blade as a theme? The sexualization of Eve is a Gooner feature, one that a bunch of right-wingers ended up in a fit about, shitting on make-believe people upset about boobs and traditionally sexy women, decrying censorship. It seems like a closed case for the history books of internet culture contentions. The director himself has confirmed not only a sequel, but shortcomings in the game, particularly such as the story. Concessions were in fact made due to limited development resources and a primary focus on the gameplay. Even I would mostly say this was worth it, because despite the story and character flaws, SB is a stellar game to play, so good in the actual act of playing that it got its hook in 3 million players. With all of its aspects and scope, we know SB is fundamentally in competition against Nier Automata. Not that it needs to perform better, but that it can't stop being compared. It needs to expand and go through a self-discovery to say something and make Eve something more. My thoughts were acknowledged by the game director in that interview regarding a sequel and what the shortcomings of the game were. Hyung-tae detailed an arc for Eve was removed from the game that would have her try new outfits early on and discover self-expression, which would have narratively led to the gameplay element of customization. All this means is that the director, in a sort of non sequitur way, kinda completely agrees with every single point I'm about to make, and I'm validated and vindicated in everything I say in this video. Stellar Blade needs more sex. These aspects Hyung-tae touched on sound like a tasty missing ingredient, but a single missing character moment isn't what will fix Stellar Blade. That alone wouldn't have developed Eve enough. It needs more of its characters, more from them. Finishing the story, it's not that I couldn't stop thinking about Eve's sex appeal, it's that I couldn't stop thinking about the obliviousness to herself, or the entire population's obliviousness to sex in general. Here are the only 2 mentions targeting this pervasive subject in the game.
Now that's a high-performance body. Jealous?
There are many treasures, but none more precious than the materials inside your bodies. And with a body as state-of-the-art as yours, need I say more?
Now, I'm not saying Eve needs to be put into more situations like this. I'm saying it's uncanny to have such a prevalent feature of the game be so absent from its subtext, or just text. God help me, I'm using the scandalous buzzword, but SB, ludonarrative dissonance. You feel? It's screaming at max decibels whenever you outfit Eve in lingerie against the routine of the game. None of the companions have anything to say if you're sporting a bikini, no glances or jokes or being bold or brash, or of the angels having marvelous form. Total passivity for an aspect of the game so apparent. It's a constant covert conversation the game has with the player under the nose of the game itself. Disparaging souls between Eve the character and Eve the gameplay feature. Now, given actually designing that level of variability in the game's routine cutscenes or dialogue is not only an impossible task, but one I'm not even asking for. I don't want a copious amount of little half nods or tiny jokes to interrupt basic conversations in the game. It's just surprising that when you consider it, SB is incredibly horny. Objectification in the sense of sexual appeal being a literal gameplay objective for players. You can dress her up to the nines or go the route of limitless fan service. Neither direction is depicted as what Eve would wear or do, and it's clear that Eve canonically wears the green suit to represent her unit. Maybe that look is transcended by the other one with the Leon Kennedy jacket fit, also a great outfit by the way. And it's not that the other outfits in the game aren't intentional, but only 1 or 2 so intricately designed in universe seem to represent what Eve really would wear. But that doesn't have to be the case. Eve could just enjoy to show skin. I don't think anyone in Zion or any of the angels even even know what sex is. These sad babies don't even know how to flirt. They seemingly didn't get any sex ed uploaded into their wacky ATX tower skulls to question any aspects of how Eve dresses, or really feel any way about anything. Despite the scandal, what's at play is soft core. This is true in many a game with sexually appealing characters or relationship mechanics. Sexy bodies and voices and fantasy babes that build the relationship meter until you get the oh so seductive wink and nod. Shh. They're doing the naughty bedtime thing now. A singular special event you'll see maybe once after investing in a choose your relationship scenario for a playthrough, or in the case of an adult game like Honey Pop, you get access to sex after enough successful dates. It's fascinating how sexually appealing and horny mature games often want to demonstrate themselves as, yet when it comes to sex itself, how held back, fade to black, hush hush it is about the logical conclusion of those kinds of feelings and anticipations. We can be horny over all these hot bodies, but take it easy with the actual pleasure of the thing. Even Witcher is only brave enough to show some boob, snore, and Lord knows the scandal supposed sex scenes like the ones found in Mass Effect caused. There were mainstream news outlets talking about this shit. Like, people kissing on a bed breaks some people, literally breaks their brains. Wild. Stellar Blade is science fiction through and through, all about artificial intelligence, gene splicing, humanity, its experiences and its plights. You see the through line, but its characters never set sail with its themes. Eve is human adjacent, homogeneous, sculpted, not the real thing. Adam is the flesh and bone of the entire game who's lived for eons trying to usher the next evolution and restore humanity. At the end, the twist. He hopes to achieve this by interfacing with one of Mother Sphere's angels. By interface, they mean fuck. Damn, they like, that's, don't even kiss. I don't even like Adam, but they could have kissed or something. Eve comes with Adam and stop that. In the true ending of the game in a flashy RPG power-up kind of way. And like, why couldn't they have like smushed up together a little? It's so plot heavy the way these things transpire. Like, it just happens. Nothing gripping or strange, maybe even spicy. You would think that with Adam and Eve, Steven Universe fusing, we would have all this saucy energy that results in some genderless bad bitch, new character encompassing all of humanity in some great combination or something. But in the end, it just flashes to white and redesigns Eve with a halo and bigger boobs, which is pretty cool too.
All I wanna do is see you turn into a giant woman, a giant woman.
Honestly, Steven Universe does a better job of showcasing intimate encounters than this fucking rated M for mature video game with this much ass. It's an interesting comparison of how we cover these themes in media. The not so subtextual sapphic horny that comes from Garnet spreading her legs in her dance and Amethyst jumping into her? Get the fuck out of here. That's awesome. Speculative fiction is an infamously horny genre. I want you to understand that there's potential there. What would it have been like if this video game presented sex or developing sexual identity and culminated in a sexual encounter between an Adam and an Eve to present this new form of life afterwards? A strange future fantasy of a post-AI, post-modern humankind. I think that could have been erotic and strange. What if Adam was just like, I don't know, just like a little nerd? He apparently in subtext was the one who made all the tech and caused all the science shit to happen. You know, what if Adam was just a little dork and he was like 4 feet taller than him, and then they kissed and got at each other. I imagine an Eve that starts her journey a fish out of water regarding Earth and culture, but that is true for all the others in Zion as well. She realizes these people don't operate according to Mother Sphere like she does. She finds immediate liberation in self-expression. She starts identifying not only that she is feeling from her experiences on Earth, but that she's had feelings since her time with Taki and her childhood, or whatever Eve had. Was Eve ever a child? Was she born from a pod looking like that? That'd be interesting stuff to learn. Taki and Eve are only elaborated in better detail in a goddamn visualizer thing, and it's not pertinent at all. I can see Eve beginning to understand the nature of life, including fulfillment beyond her God-given objectives. She even discovers pleasure. Mother Sphere's impact on everyone's worldview had them in lockdown, subjugated in greater and greater ways than they ever even could have imagined. I love the idea of an all-powerful godlike being ordaining these perfectly sculpted angels, and then Eve's just like, nah, bitch, I ain't doing your laundry. I'm gonna go smoke weed and fuck. Horny Rebel Eve sounds awesome. Let's fucking go. Thematics around the physical experience, the spiritual truth of touch, a story absolutely lusting for touching grass. That's what sex means. I'm not saying we need a scenario where the only way to save humanity is through Eve's pussy. But hey, what the hell? What if, much like Mother Sphere, we make sexy characters, build sexy bodies? We're so busy being pushed to think and stress over our appeal and being sexual candidates, yet it's so taboo to express and be candid with real sex and real pleasure, either in art or discussion or any communication. So I'm driving this forward a lot. I understand Eve's features are an exhibition for exhibition's sake. I don't know if Young Tae and team is woke. His statement is that he wanted to give the target mature audience something enjoyable for mature audiences. And I know the devs were flabbergasted by gamer cuck weirdos who were so passionate about their supposedly non-woke femme fatale. As far as I know, it was never a culture war thing for the developers. They really just wanted to make a conventionally sexy character. They just wanted the game to sell. Call him or anyone on the team out for having their one hand in creating a character like Eve. A cliche for sure. Fan service, definitely. Even a boring depiction of what is sexy in a woman. Plenty of female characters in gaming have come from woeful, boy-brained origins. Samus being a subversive reveal in 1987 also sought a reward to have her be in a bathing suit if you complete the game fast enough. The entire ethos of Lara Croft was Indiana Jones as a hot chick. I'm a gamer, dude. I'd choose the female character because I'd rather look at girl ass than boy ass. It's either that or their egg just hasn't cracked yet. Characters can transcend the weak spots of the culture that made them. Monoliths don't make video games and all that art. A whole bunch of people do. Art goes beyond intentions through reception, even if it was made by a little freak. The swirl is multifaceted and can work for or against whatever social progress we're looking to pave forward. Art always allows a diagnosis and an examination of society. You know, is Bayonetta only valid sexualization because she's a character designed by a woman? Mari Shimazaki wasn't forced to make a sexualized female character. I always feel it's more nuanced than that anyway, especially when it's in the hands of any particular kind of player. Women are a huge demographic in gaming, particularly queer women, whom often very much enjoy characters like Eve, or even Quiet. Low-key, I do think Hideo Kojima is a little bit of an asshole. He certainly is horny, but in a character like Quiet, therein lies a bit of what I'm trying to get at. On a default, there's obviously nothing wrong with loving ass. My oh-so sex-positive ideas for Stellar Blade regarding a thematic sexual reinvention don't fix a missing validation for its sexuality. Sex isn't only good in media under supposedly artistic or enlightened settings. Quiet as a character isn't validated because Hideo Kojima made a quote-unquote tragic backstory for her, and any who complained about her design would eat their words when they realized why she has to dress like that. She breathes through her skin because of nanomachines after she was set on fire and healed with nanomachines. The hilariously bad explanation for why she dresses like that aside, the truth is Kojima is a dog. There's also nothing wrong with Honey Pop, and it wouldn't finally crack into good game status if the sex had a deeper allegorical truth behind it. Honey Pop doesn't need to be elevated. Sex doesn't need to be validated. Like so many things about us, it just is, and we are allowed to explore that, have fun with it, criticize it, let it exist simply for the sake of it, or or whatever else you want to do with it. We're all adults here. SB doesn't need to be about sex to validate having a protagonist flaunt like this. Fan service is okay too. The fundamental problem that Eve is a deeply shallow protagonist. For all my yapping, the point is that Saucer Stunner has a weak story and weak characters that go nowhere in trying to say anything about anything. I find that sexuality is not only a really cool theme it could focus on to separate itself from its peers, especially in gaming, but it is one it could shape into and make happen extremely easily with its reputation and the fun that it already has with Eve. Have fun with the other characters too. Again, just make Adam cute. If they stick with their original intentions and just fucking write a better story next time, that'll do the job too. The game doesn't need to recontextualize Eve's sexualization so that it feels like she consents to me looking at her or something. Your morality isn't in shambles if you get a boner playing this game. So, has the whole video just been me fucking horny posting on main then, or what?
They asked to scan my, like underneath my feet.
Yeah, I guess I am, cause y'all, I'm just so over the puritanical shit. I have altered, rethought, killed, and brought back the script 5 times since I completed Heavenly Hottie, mulling over making it a frickin' sad attempt at a dissertation level research paper on sex positivity and sex and gaming, or just my dumbass rambling, or perhaps talk about the game like any review and shut up about these ideas that popped in my head. The game's sex was already a hefty debate that diluted the conversation about the actual game itself. But moving on from the weird little impressions Bozo Blade gave me with its body imagery yet complete lack of sexual presence, I consistently was irked over the course of 2025. The culture being paved ahead of us is sex negative and pro-censorship. Time and time again over the last 12 months, I've kept being encouraged by my surroundings that I should just let this video subject rip. Warts and all manner of lacking nuance to the subject that I probably could never provide. Our ancestors used to like chronically capture the phallic form on fine clay and rare stones and ensured the matriarchs were in a state of climax for like 3/4 the duration of the sun. In the modern era, we have fucking suburban chic, term life insurance. The truth is, puritanical sociological structures run so fucking deep. You've not escaped it if you got yourself out of a straight-laced religion. Purity culture is the culture. I mean, I'm only speaking for the US, but I think that's well understood. In our performance of morals as good versus bad person, in restraint or hedonism, humans have always been horny, been expressively curious about sex in our intrapersonal engagements, and we've never been more prudish than now. Uppity freaks want to make money off of how we engage with ourselves and each other through sex or gender or social performances and expression. There's no money to be made from a pleasured and satisfied life. We can't let the human experience breathe. Fuck that. This fact, in fact, garners real sexism in places such as the video game sphere. Whether it comes from the developers of video games or the gamers who play them, and culture can transcend that, but I was there for the Aloy Peach Fuzz incident of 2020. The actual horrifying shit with Silent Hill F, and the butchered and shitification AI slop-enhanced cuckerbait objectification edits of Ghost of Yotai. Indicative of the infamously nasty, slimy culture still prevalent in gaming's mainstream. Never about loving women, the female form, or even pleasure. All that performative males hijacked ideals of sex for power, for a sort of dominance. Voyeurism that's a result of self-consciously low sexual and emotional maturity. If these dudes were serious about actually loving women, artists like Joe Cat wouldn't have been run off of Twitter for an earnest animation about how much they love women. The problem was he performed his heterosexuality like a queer. Sexual hegemony performed via masculinity is about categorically oppressing people, including the men that purport it, not pleasure or loving or being attracted to one type of person. But I also see a lot of people fall for the wrong path to address this cultural issue and still end up in a strange puritanical line. The pearl clutching from my generation and younger concerns me. I don't know why it has to be either freak men on the internet saying women need to be banned from voting again, or people so terminally online with moral OCD they haphazardly attempt to be so woke they go right wing. I'm seeing bro posts talking about how they love their fine shite so much they don't even think about her sexually because they would never objectify their queen like that. That's fucking wild. You understand that, right? You think you're being like a feminist boyfriend, but you're actually just posting some bimbo picks up a book memes. Holy shit. You're gonna be eating a raw potato anytime your dick quivers at this rate. Those epic TikTok edits of cool women in video games slandering my goddess Bayonetta for objectification? How dare you? In the interest of flimsy execution of what's good, sexuality and intimacy is being deleted. There's a mess of a confused debate between libs and interpretations of sex media and how actual people feel about these subjects. Collective Shout, an Australian activist group, has risen to prominence after they managed to wring the arms of payment processors to target adult content on a large scale earlier this year. It didn't take much effort on their part. Only some hundreds of calls lobbying against PayPal or MasterCard has forced the actions of distribution platforms to de-index and remove abundant adult content such as off of Steam and itch.io. Content that is 100% legal, by the way. An effort that is en masse targeting queer content, or straight up anything these payment processors define as strange. They call it high risk, hentai, BDSM, mommydom, you name something moderately unconventional apart from mainstream, that being women who love getting fucked porn, then it's dangerous. High-risk media deemed by these companies that apparently get a say in how you legally spend your money. This exact type of censorship has been done before. It's operated the same way to isolate what is sexually marginal and elevate a sexual hegemony. The same hegemony of purity culture and simultaneous objectification. It's a battle over what is allowed to be observed about human sexuality because the culture is guaranteed to examine porn to gestate and formulate its understandings. Censorship and the fight over sex worker rights is nothing new. The actions of Collective Shout are just another chapter in the history books of the porn wars since the 90s, 80s, even 70s. An activism cited, referenced, and organized as feminist, yet collaborating with conservative and religious organizations. If a partnership like that sounds like an oxymoron, yes. Please listen to that intuition. This contention of pro versus anti-porn or sex work feminism has caused all kinds of tumultuous outcomes. This familiar partnership of anti-porn feminists and religious activists has been accelerating recently. It's surprising, yet not, to see feminist organizations with hidden church money purport that the greatest risks to womanhood are trans people and surrogacy or some other wild out-of-pocket shit like that. With historical and present observations, I can confidently say that supporting sex workers' rights, desensationalizing porn, and pursuing open and honest sexual autonomy goes hand in hand with women's liberation, trans rights, protections and resources for survivors, and learning queer folk alike. This doesn't mean you have to consume the content, but simply respect it as the human-made art that it unironically is. I don't read or consume what I can't handle or that makes me uncomfortable, and I completely understand efforts to make culture, let alone video game spaces, less objectifying and volatile to the women who are already here in the space, have always in fact been here, but tons are wasting energy on the Madonna versus mistress of women rather than the actual goal of humanization of women. It's about sexual autonomy. No expectation to be or say or create art of any specific kind, but simply be allowed to follow through with any person's artistic vision. Focusing on the phenomenon of objectification exclusively only amounts to calling for actions of silence rather than self-regulation. I saw censorship panic because of things like the AO3 Kingtober list, and I understand that many of those kink genres aren't for most. Lots of them ain't for me either, but it's fanfic. It's adults sharing make-believe. Imagination is how we navigate strange, confusing, and maybe even illogical or illegal aspects of humanity. You know, I recently saw the ballet of Dracula, and when the 3 vampire temptresses intoxicate and make an effort to seduce the protagonist, I remember reeling back to myself. Don't these vampire ladies know that that is illegal? It's an avenue to explore humanity and even heal ourselves. Certainly some of the content would be deemed depraved by mainstream viewers, but perhaps not every single thing we come across on the internet is for us. If in response to taboo, you're ending up aligning yourself with groups like Collective Shout and TERFs who have instigated payment platforms to completely restrict legal adult content in the guise of eliminating CP or abusive content from storefronts like Steam or itch.io, you are not a woke warrior. You're in the It's a Me a Mario Red Hat Chris Pratt pipeline. The slippery slope analogy is trite, but it's true. Censorship is not a tool that accurately removes harmful or genuinely bad content from public spaces. Please don't consider the policing of certain topics, because who's the demographic in power that gets to do the policing, Mansley? Then people are surprised when eliminating adult things from spaces that, mind you, were already adult-oriented doesn't disenfranchise the pedophiles and sex pests, but gets the queer disabled hijabi woman out of the job and wipes her favorite smut from fanfic sites. This taboo actually impedes victims from being able to cope, process, or navigate their sexual experiences and autonomy. It leads to victim-blaming rhetoric and purports oppressive sex standards and roles for people of all genders, which all it does is throttle the income and stability of queer and not safe for work artists. Then AI tech swoops in, getting a wave of support for porn creation to replace these artists? Wow. What hypocrisy, right? This shit sucks. Instead of a real woman getting paid for their diligently crafted giantess vor smut, why not have Sora 2 create lifelike images of your celebrity crush? This shit needs to be eviscerated. Love sex, not this shit. MasterCard is literally using AI to mass sweep high-risk types of payments that categorically affect not just queer-owned businesses, but even against literal individuals by name. It doesn't matter if it's actual legal content with your actual own hard-earned money. Imagine a bank or payment platform restricting the access to your money because its terms of service deems Nico Boy content as high risk, because that's actually happening, and that needle will get pushed. I've used Stellar Blade as the crutch of this conversation because this content is so easy to exist in a heteronormative zeitgeist. Your favorite laid-back sensual content might not be threatened today, because today it's only weird queer kinks you've maybe never even heard of. Tomorrow, it's being banned from banks for having a progress flag in the bio of your Ko-fi or PayPal account. And the day after, it's something super normal you never would have thought been the target of this kind of censorship. And yeah, just calling out and vocalizing your frustrations are an amazing way to fight this. Instead of complaining for free amongst your mutuals on social media, how about you direct it at these slimy companies and the representatives that actively want to make your life worse? Call MasterCard, Visa, PayPal, Stripe, call your banks, inquire about legal content being censored or denied, or your favorite artists being removed from storefronts. People have created so many wonderful resources that I've linked in the description that detail phone numbers, actual mail-in and email addresses you can write to if calling makes you too uncomfortable, petitions which are really easy to sign, and even scripts to follow on the phone to make it as easy as possible to waste these bastards' time. Just don't be an asshole to phone reps, please. That just makes movements like this look bad. Let's bring this back around. Stellar Blade didn't get any major backlash or cries for censorship like I'm talking about now. As I said, chuds were fighting a fake war on the internet that SB was triggering and a big middle finger to censorship and the woke mob, but it wasn't. People like the game. I like the game. It's a chill time, and I love the super femme action vibes, even if it might be hard to recommend to a friend who will mistake it as the big budget Gooner game. The dialogue I'm seeing from 2024 to now doesn't paint a pretty picture. I can pretty easily see a future where the pearl clutching just gets tighter, whether from genuine puritanical practice or a misaligned approach to the important social reform of patriarchy. There's a reason the response to the porn industry is protect and empower sex workers, not ban porn. Most of the directions of cultural regression I've pointed at are occurring in spheres that I don't know, this shit might just be too cishet for me. Getting inundated with their dramas and theories on the internet is always baffling, but the wild shit they're up to always has major consequences for queer circles. My examination of what to be done for Stellar Blade or for these very, very strange sexually oppressed people might be way too generous for them at this time. It might be too generous for what dudes like Young Tae are capable of in terms of designing and telling a story about a sexy woman. I would love for sex to be more liberated in its depictions, in its place in narrative, and in freedom of expression. The gooning memes and sexual brain rot jokes are slowly backing genuine liberation movements into a corner of sex embarrassment and shame. Sexual fantasies, sex exploration, really all art, and the exploration of human experiences in general cannot be restricted or legislated into a proper moral code. I'm not saying that certain content can't just make you uncomfortable or that you can't isolate certain content out of your life. In fact, yes, I'm telling you to be an adult and self-regulate. It's totally okay if you don't want depictions of specific sex acts in the media you ingest, let alone horror or violence, anything. Just be responsible and respectful. It's always that simple. If you take anything away, remember that 803 Kingtober age play fanfic does not enable child abuse or trauma. Churches do. Yeah, I was gonna leave that zinger out of the script, but then I saw that fresh reporting from NBC on the Assemblies of God Church, a denomination I straight up have history with, and I got fucking stories from my time in the pulpits. I ain't holding back on that. Fuck that. Give Stellar Blade a try if you want a fun triple ass action adventure time. Find and tell me what your favorite outfits are. The dress up is genuinely so fun. Not just because there's skimpy stuff, but like all the other things. Oh my god, if the sequel has necklaces and bracelets and more accessories and shoes? Oh my god, if SB2 has shoes, it's fucking elite. Forget it. I really love this game the more I've talked about it, and I've continued to reflect on it over the course of this year to make this wild script. So, does Stellar Blade need more sex? Well, no. I still stand by what I said, that I think it would have been an original and thematically interesting way for the narrative to operate. I think along its feminine action and style, a sci-fi story about humanity and sex would be an absolutely epic concept to revolve its themes around. Let's be a bit more charitable with that sexy factor. More sexually explorative and queer strange sci-fi Stellar Blade stuff. I mean, come on. TNA goes both ways, you know? Take the time to make the writing better and make it a fucking AAA game about sex, and you have yourself a subversive gem of an industry game. But I have no faith or hopes or even any desires out of this industry. I don't expect this to ever exist at all. It's sure as hell not like I'm going to make a AAA sex game. Guys, I'm starting to learn Unreal Engine 5. This video really was just fanfic of a major, big budget, popular in the zeitgeist game doing something wild. Fantasy around a hyper sex positive story being highly accessible and visible and going against the moral panic that's brewing all around us. Devs can keep Eve sexy for the fun of it, and I'm certain SB2 will have more weird dialogue and clunky aspects to it. I will love that sequel for it anyways. I'm sure of that. And hopefully shoes. Please add shoes. I made this whole ass video and honestly, I just want more accessories next time, please. I'm done diagnosing this sex stuff. Thank you for bearing with me through this dense, wild, and definitely rambly video. I hope it was a positive addition to your developing personality through random internet person consumption. And if you're not a random web surfer watching my video to completion, you're probably my very sweet and supportive family, in which case, I really hope you enjoyed my video about sex. Love you all. Bye.